Well, today's a new day for Kentucky 4-H. We've started a new program, and it's recognizing people that's made a difference in 4-Hers' lives.
So the foundation set up the Kentucky 4-H Family Hall of Fame to really recognize the Wallace family and the Goodman family for the legacy that they left on Kentucky 4-H. These two families had generations of Kentucky 4-H involvement, and that 4-H involvement gave a lasting impact on Kentucky 4-H families. The Goodman family really impacted Kentucky 4-H through extension. Dennis Goodman started the State Teen Council with a group of state officers, like Paul Hall, for example, who helped him begin the State Teen Council. And that effect has lasted through generations of Kentucky 4-Hers. And even today, we have State Teen Council, and the people that we talk to, their memories come from State Teen Council, and that's something that Dennis Goodman provided Kentucky 4-Hers even today.
My husband just had a knack for being able to communicate with young people. He just always invited everybody in, and even in the office, lots of drop-bys. Sometimes they couldn't get in during the day to talk because he was involved in something else, so they just came to the house. But my husband loved that. He thrived on that. He always felt like in those first few years that he was with 4-H that the teens were the ones that should be running the program. And that was really the beginning of his ideas about forming the Teen Council.
In the mid-1970s, I had the opportunity to be elected to State 4-H Teen Council. And I remember meeting this music major, this Dennis Goodman guy, who was the state advisor at that time. And little did I know how that would change my life. And how his leadership and his caring and his skills would help nurture me and mentor me, for literally decades to come. It's his legacy that we have today, the Teen Council, the State 4-H officer structure, and everything that goes along with that.
When you look at the way Kentucky 4-H is structured today with all kinds of state boards for kids to be a part of, State Teen Council was a precursor to all that. And I think that increasingly what we've learned is that whenever students have someone who believes in them and they're given an opportunity, they'll stand up and they have something that they want to do with their time and with their lives. They don't want to just be takers. They want to be doers. And I think the more that we can include some of these kids in this type of opportunity, the better it is. And so I'm glad that Kentucky 4-H has created some of these other boards for kids to serve on. They all stem from what was happening with State Teen Council, especially in Dennis's time. For me, and probably a lot of people who were involved in Kentucky 4-H in my time, it's synonymous with Dennis Goodman and his contribution to teen lives through the State Teen Council. So it's an incredible honor, I think, for the foundation to be able to bestow this on the Goodman families, just simply because of Dennis's contributions and the way that he involved his entire family in his work. His daughters were both incredibly involved. Carol was always there, a huge supporter for what we did and for Dennis and the work that he was doing. And so I think that this is a very appropriate honor.
The Goodman family, Dennis Goodman was just a unique individual. In the early 70s, Dennis felt like the teens should be responsible for their own destiny. If you remember, that was the Vietnam War time. And the last thing any adult was wanting to do was to allow teens to have responsibility. So really, he was kind of out on his own. And by 73, 74, he had finally convinced Conrad Feltner, who was the head clover at the time, that teens should have more responsibility in the programs in Kentucky. Long story short, 74, 75, Teen Council was developed sort of from all regions, but no formality. And Conrad blessed it. Dennis County provided the passion and the leadership. And I was elected in 76, and Roberta and my team worked to develop the official Teen Council with Dennis's leadership. Now let's move forward to the Wallace family. In that time, all the decisions were made by, of course, Dean Barnhart and then the Leaders Council. And so Dean Barnhart accepted it. So then we went to the Leaders Council, but the Leaders Council was not supportive of allowing teens to have their own teen state organization. So it took a lot of convincing. And one of the people doing the convincing happened to be the Wallace family. And David at that time was not on State Teen Council as the official one, but the Wallace family stepped up and said, yep, teens should be involved. And so it's kind of unique that we look back now with the Goodman family and Dennis leading the way, and then Roberta Hunt that I mentioned, her mother was on the teen council or on the Leaders Council with the Wallaces, and both of those families stepped up and said, hey, we think this will work.
Now, with the Wallace family, that started at the county level. They have their grandparents are involved, their great-grandparents, their parents, and now us kids. They started at the county level and they've worked their way all the way through to the state level. And today we see David Wallace as a big supporter of Kentucky programs. So they've grown through generations, starting at the county level and working their way all the way up to our state level program.
I was state 4-H president in 1977-78, and you know, I can remember in those days Jimmy and Betty Wallace being at State Leaders Council. I can remember going to various 4-H events throughout the state of Kentucky, and you know, that Wallace family name was there. And they were well known throughout, especially West Kentucky, but all of Kentucky, for their support of 4-H, their love of the organization, and you could see that throughout their.
I appreciate all that the Wallaces have done for me, both on a professional level, helping me those early years, but as my career track, they were always there for me, encouraging me sometimes when I didn't think that I could do it or I didn't have the confidence. And I don't believe I would be where I am today or have the confidence or the skills that I have today without them prodding and pushing. And I'm sure David and Steve feel the same way.
Jimmy and Betty Sue really instilled in Steve and David and 4-Hers that they led in local clubs and things was the opportunities that are out there in the world, whether that be career or whatever that may be. And you know, when you look at that, it was their vision. It was their ability to go to a Farm Bureau meeting, to their participation in National 4-H Congress as youth themselves, to really understand what the world was and how big the world was and the opportunities that were beyond Caldwell County and Princeton, things that they could do outside, but yet things they could bring back and impact their community, which they love so much. But you know, they instilled that in David and Steve, and in doing so, they gave David a real vision to go off to law school.
It doesn't surprise me that David is an attorney and a leader in his community, and he has continued to be involved in 4-H. He was a born leader, and a lot of that I think comes from that family legacy of developing your capacity, being a leader, working in your community, helping others. Both David and Steve have followed that pathway.
As I said before, I've served on the State Leaders Council, and of course I feel that 4-H builds character, and by sharing my knowledge with the 4-Hers, it helps me feel that I've contributed to being a better citizen and bettering my county, area, and state.
We're recognizing the Wallace family and the Goodman family, I guess the pioneers of the program, if we will look at it. But from the Kentucky 4-H Foundation and Kentucky 4-H, we want to congratulate them today for, I guess, showing us the way, because they truly were never questioned their support of Kentucky 4-H. They were always there, somewhat financially, involved in leadership, providing help to 4-Hers. So that's kind of what we look for this program, is those people that are making a difference, or as the 4-H motto is, making the best better. And that's what they're doing